First contact. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the International Space Station, watching the first sunrise of 2157. After 15 years of service in the United Earth Space Force, she thought she'd seen everything space had to offer. She was wrong. The anomaly appeared without warning, a ripple in the fabric of spacetime that their instruments couldn't explain. At first, it looked like a heat distortion, similar to mirages on Earth's deserts. But as Sarah watched, the distortion grew, transforming into a massive tear in the dark canvas of space. "Captain, we're detecting multiple objects emerging from the anomaly," Lieutenant James O'Connor's voice crackled through her comm unit. The young officer's Irish lilt carried an edge of anxiety she'd never heard before. "Classification?" Sarah asked, already moving toward the station's command center. "Unknown, ma'am. But they're big. Biggest readings we've ever seen. Definitely not natural phenomena." Sarah burst into the command center, where dozens of screens displayed the approaching objects. They were massive vessels, unlike anything humanity had ever constructed. Their obsidian surfaces seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making them look like moving holes in space. "How many?" 7 capital ships, Captain. And hundreds of smaller vessels." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the station's lead xenobiologist, was already analyzing the data streaming in. "These ships, their design suggests an intelligence far beyond our current understanding of physics. The energy readings are off the charts." "Get me Earth Command," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "And someone wake up Dr. Kenzo Tanaka. If anyone can make sense of these readings, it's him." As the communications officer worked to establish a connection with Earth, Sarah studied the tactical display. The alien vessels had arranged themselves in a perfect heptagon formation, surrounding Earth like a net waiting to close. Dr. Kenzo Tanaka arrived moments later, his silver hair disheveled from sleep but his eyes sharp behind his glasses. The 72-year-old physicist had been studying theoretical alien civilizations for decades. Now his theories were becoming reality. "Fascinating," he muttered, poring over the data. "Their propulsion system appears to be based on gravitational manipulation. They're not just traveling through space, they're bending it." Before Sarah could respond, a new alert blared through the station. "Captain!" Lieutenant O'Connor called out. "We're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in every known human language simultaneously." "Put it through," Sarah commanded. The voice that filled the command center was unlike anything they'd ever heard, a harmony of tones that seemed to resonate with their very bones. "People of Earth, we are the collective. Your species stands at a crossroads. The coming year will determine not just your fate, but the fate of all sentient life in this galaxy. We have watched, we have waited, and now we must intervene." The message continued, explaining that humanity had unknowingly become central to a millennia-old conflict between two ancient alien factions, the Collective and the Void Hunters. Earth's solar system occupied a crucial strategic position in the galaxy, and its inhabitants possessed unique genetic markers that could potentially turn the tide of this cosmic war. Dr. Rodriguez's hands flew over her console. "Captain, I'm detecting biological signatures from these ships that defy everything we know about life. They're beautiful and terrifying at the same time." Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. As the highest-ranking military officer currently aboard the ISS, her next decisions could affect the fate of humanity. "Dr. Tanaka," she said, turning to the physicist, "what are your thoughts?" The old scientist adjusted his glasses, his expression grave. "The technology they're displaying, it's consistent with a Type II civilization on the Kardashev scale. We're dealing with beings who can harness the entire energy output of their star system. But what troubles me is their mention of genetic markers. They've been studying us, Captain. For how long, we don't know. The station's AI, ARIA, Advanced Research Intelligence Assistant, began correlating historical data. "Captain, I've detected patterns in human historical records that suggest possible previous interventions by advanced civilizations. Religious texts, ancient megalithic structures, unexplained technological leaps, they all point to external influence." Lieutenant O'Connor's console lit up again. "Captain, Earth Command is responding. They're mobilizing all military assets and calling an emergency session of the United Earth Council." Sarah took a deep breath, knowing that humanity's response in these first crucial hours would set the tone for everything that followed. "Open a channel to the collective vessel. If we're going to face this crisis, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with." As she waited for the connection to establish, Sarah caught her reflection in one of the darkened screens. Her Asian features were set in determination, her short black hair regulation neat despite the crisis. She'd trained her entire life for space operations, but nothing had prepared her for first contact with an advanced alien civilization. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The collective shared more information about the Void Hunters, a rival faction that saw developing civilizations as resources to be harvested rather than potential allies. According to the collective, the Void Hunters were approaching Earth from the opposite direction, hidden in the dark space beyond Pluto. Dr. Rodriguez worked tirelessly to understand the biological data the collective shared. "These genetic markers they mentioned, they're real. Humanity has potential for abilities we never dreamed possible. Psychic capabilities, enhanced regeneration, even the ability to manipulate quantum fields directly with our minds." "But why tell us now?" Sarah asked. "Why not wait until we develop these abilities naturally?" Dr. Tanaka looked up from his calculations. "Because we don't have time. The Void Hunters are coming, and they're coming now. The collective isn't just warning us, they're offering to help us unlock our potential. The question is, can we trust them?" As if in answer to his question, new alarms blared throughout the station. Lieutenant O'Connor's face paled as he read the incoming data. Multiple objects detected entering the solar system from beyond Neptune's orbit. Their energy signatures, they're similar to the collective's ships, but different. Darker somehow. "The Void Hunters," Sarah whispered. The first chapter of humanity's greatest challenge was beginning. As Sarah looked out at the alien ships surrounding Earth, she couldn't help but wonder if they were looking at humanity's saviors or their executioners. Either way, 2157 would be a year that would change everything. The collective's message resumed, this time with greater urgency. "Choose quickly, children of Earth. The Void Hunters approach, and with them comes a darkness that has consumed 1,000 worlds. You have potential beyond your understanding, but potential alone will not save you. The time has come to rise above your planetary cradle and take your place among the stars, if you dare." Sarah Chen squared her shoulders and faced her crew. "Contact Earth Command. Tell them we need to make a decision, and we need to make it now. The future of our species depends on what we do in the next few hours." As she gave the order, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a story that would reshape not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. The new year had barely begun, and already humanity faced its greatest challenge. The question wasn't just whether they would survive, but what they would become in the process. Awakening. Major Diana Santos stood in the newly constructed awakening chamber beneath the Atacama Desert, her dark eyes fixed on the first group of volunteers. As Earth's leading expert in human enhancement and former Brazilian Special Forces operative, she had been chosen to oversee humanity's transformation program. "The neural interface is stable," reported Dr. Yuki Watanabe, the brilliant Japanese neuroscientist who had helped develop the activation protocols based on the collective's data. Her holographic display showed the brain patterns of 20 volunteers, all carefully selected from different military and scientific backgrounds. 3 weeks had passed since first contact, and humanity had made its choice. After 48 hours of intense global debate, the United Earth Council had voted to accept the collective's offer of assistance. The decision hadn't been unanimous, China and Russia had initially opposed it, but the approaching Void Hunter fleet had made the decision practically inevitable. "Begin the activation sequence," Diana ordered, her voice steady despite her racing heart. They had tested the process on individual subjects, but this was the first mass awakening attempt. The chamber hummed with energy as crystalline structures, gifts from the collective, began to pulse with an otherworldly blue light. The volunteers, each floating in individual suspension pods, remained unconscious as waves of quantum energy washed over them. High above in orbit, Captain Sarah Chen watched the proceedings through a secure feed. The ISS had been transformed into a joint human collective command center, with new alien technology seamlessly integrated into the station's systems. "The process appears to be working as intended," commented Nexus, the collective's liaison. Unlike other members of their species, Nexus had modified their form to appear more humanoid, though their silvery skin and luminescent eyes marked them as distinctly alien. "Their genetic markers are responding to the activation energy." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the chamber. One of the volunteers, former RAF pilot Marcus Wright, began convulsing in his pod. His neural readings spiked off the charts. "Shut down the sequence." Dr. Watanabe shouted, but Diana held up her hand. "No, look." Marcus's body was surrounded by a corona of energy. Objects in his pod began to float, defying gravity. Then, one by one, the other volunteers exhibited similar phenomena. The chamber filled with swirling patterns of light as 20 humans began to awaken to their full potential. "Remarkable," Nexus observed. "Their adaptation rate exceeds our most optimistic projections." In her pod, Dr. Maya Patel, a quantum physicist from India, opened her eyes. They glowed with the same ethereal blue as the activation crystals. "I can see," she whispered, her voice trembling with awe. "I can see everything, the quantum field, the strings of reality themselves." The activation process completed, and the pods drained. Diana rushed to help the volunteers as they emerged on shaky legs. Marcus Wright stumbled, then caught himself, by floating 6 inches above the ground. "Well," he said with a nervous laugh, his British accent thick with emotion, "that's new." Dr. Watanabe's instruments were going crazy. Their neural density has increased by 300%. New synaptic pathways are forming in real time. And these energy readings, they're actually manipulating quantum fields with their thoughts. But not everyone had emerged unscathed. 2 volunteers remained unconscious, their minds overwhelmed by the transformation. Another, Security Officer Zhao Wei from China, screamed as invisible forces swirled around him, his newfound powers spiraling out of control. "Containment protocols," Diana ordered, but before the security teams could respond, Dr. Maya Patel stepped forward. She raised her hands, and suddenly the chaos around Zhao ceased. Somehow, she had created a quantum dampening field on pure instinct. I don't know how I did that," she admitted, looking at her hands in wonder. In orbit, Sarah Chen received an urgent communication from Earth Command. "Captain, we're detecting multiple gravitational anomalies at the edge of the solar system. The Void Hunters are accelerating their approach." "How long do we have?" Sarah asked, dreading the answer. "At their current velocity, 3 weeks, maximum." Nexus's form shimmed with concern. "They must have detected the activation energy. We had hoped for more time to prepare." Sarah turned to the alien liaison. "You said these abilities would help us fight them. How long does it normally take for a species to master these powers?" "Under optimal conditions, several Earth years," Nexus admitted. "But you don't have years. You have weeks." In the awakening chamber, Diana was already planning the next phase. "We need to scale up," she told Dr. Watanabe. "How many pods can we bring online? With the current infrastructure? Maybe 1,000. But the energy requirements are enormous, and we don't know if everyone will survive the process." Marcus Wright, now firmly back on the ground, spoke up. "Those ships we saw in the briefing, the ones that destroyed the Centauri colony. They're coming here, aren't they? To do the same to Earth?" Diana nodded grimly. "Which is why we need to train you quickly. You're not just test subjects anymore, you're going to be teachers. We need to awaken and train as many people as possible before the Void Hunters arrive." Dr. Maya Patel closed her eyes, extending her new senses. "There's something else," she said quietly. "Something the collective hasn't told us. I can feel it, gaps in the quantum field, like scars in reality itself." In orbit, Sarah had the same suspicion. She confronted Nexus directly. "What aren't you telling us about the Void Hunters? Why are they really coming here?" The alien liaison was silent for a long moment. Finally, they spoke, their voice heavy with ancient sorrow. "The Void Hunters, they were like you once. A species with tremendous potential. They were our greatest achievement, and our greatest failure. What they seek is not just conquest, but redemption. They believe that by harvesting other species' potential, they can restore what they lost." "And what did they lose?" Sarah pressed. "Their humanity," Nexus replied. "Or rather, their equivalent of it. The process we used to awaken them, it went wrong. It gave them power, yes, but it cost them their essence, their empathy, their very souls. They became living weapons, and now they seek to perfect the process by experimenting on other species." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. "Are you saying this could happen to us too? That these powers might cost us our humanity?" "It is a risk," Nexus admitted. "But we have learned from our mistakes. The process we developed for your species is different, more stable. Still, there are no guarantees." Back in the awakening chamber, the volunteers were beginning to explore their abilities. Marcus Wright had mastered basic flight. Maya Patel was manipulating quantum fields with increasing precision. Others displayed powers ranging from telepathy to matter manipulation. But Diana noticed something troubling. With each passing hour, the volunteers seemed to grow more distant, more focused on their powers than on each other. Only Maya seemed to maintain her complete personality, perhaps because her scientific curiosity anchored her to her human nature. "Dr. Watanabe," Diana called. "I want continuous psychological monitoring of all subjects. If anyone shows signs of emotional degradation, they're to be pulled from the program immediately." The neuroscientist nodded, already modifying her scanning protocols. "We should also begin mapping the different types of abilities that are manifesting. Some seem more stable than others." As if to emphasize her point, Zhao Wei successfully created a small force field, his earlier instability now under control. "It's like learning a new language," he explained. "At first, it's overwhelming, but then patterns emerge." Diana's comm unit chimed with a priority message from Sarah Chen. After reading it, she gathered the volunteers. "Listen up. The timeline has changed. We don't have months to master these abilities, we have weeks. The Void Hunters are coming, and they're coming fast. Then we better get to work," Marcus said, floating up to eye level with her. "When do we start training the next group?" Diana looked at her watch. It was still the first week of January 2157, and already the world had changed beyond recognition. "The next group begins in 6 hours. Dr. Watanabe, begin preparation for 100 pods. Maya, I want you to focus on understanding these quantum fields. If there are side effects to this process, you might be our best chance of detecting them." As the volunteers dispersed to their assigned tasks, Diana couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against more than just the approaching Void Hunters. They were racing against time, against their own potential corruption, and against the possibility that in saving humanity, they might accidentally destroy what made them human in the first place. The awakening had begun, but whether it would lead to humanity's salvation or its downfall remained to be seen. The next few weeks would determine not just the success of their transformation, but whether they could retain their humanity in the process. Resistance. The first attack came without warning. A Void Hunter scout ship appeared in low Earth orbit, its hull seeming to drink in the starlight. Before the enhanced defense systems could respond, it had already launched its payload, hundreds of biomechanical pods streaking through the atmosphere like metallic raindrops. Multiple impacts detected in major population centers, Lieutenant O'Connor reported from the ISS Command Center. Seoul, Sydney, Lagos, and Rio de Janeiro are all reporting contact. Captain Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with growing horror as the pods began to open, releasing their contents into Earth cities. What are we dealing with? Nexus's form flickered with agitation. Hunter-seekers. Autonomous combat units designed to test defensive capabilities and gather tactical data. This is only the first wave. In Rio de Janeiro, Major Diana Santos led her team of enhanced humans through the chaos-filled streets. Marcus Wright soared overhead, providing aerial reconnaissance, while Dr. Maya Patel used her quantum sensing abilities to track the alien threats. "They're not just machines," Maya called out, her eyes glowing with ethereal energy. "They're hybrid creatures. Part organic, part technological, and they're adapting to our attacks." A hunter-seeker burst through a nearby building, its serpentine form moving with impossible speed. Before it could strike, Zhao Wei threw up a force field, containing the creature. The Chinese security officer had mastered his powers over the past 2 weeks, becoming one of their strongest defensive assets. "These things are scanning us," Zhao reported, strain evident in his voice as the creature tested his barrier. "They're especially interested in those of us with active powers." Diana accessed the tactical network through her neural interface, another gift from the collective. Similar reports were coming in from all affected cities. The hunter-seekers seemed more focused on gathering information than causing destruction, though they responded with lethal force when confronted. In Sydney, a new figure had joined the fight. Commander Alexandra "Alex" Blackwood, former Australian SAS operative and one of the second wave of enhanced humans, coordinated the defense with brutal efficiency. Her ability to manipulate electromagnetic fields had proven particularly effective against the biomechanical threats. "Major Santos," Alex's voice crackled through the comm, "we're noticing a pattern. These things are specifically targeting civilian populations with latent genetic markers. They're hunting potential enhanced humans." In orbit, Sarah Chen faced her own crisis. The Void Hunter scout ship had taken up position just beyond the ISS's defensive perimeter, analyzing their responses. The station's new weapon systems, hybrid technology combining human innovation with collective science, stood ready, but Sarah hesitated to fire the first shot. "Captain," Nexus warned, "if we don't drive them back now, they'll transmit everything they've learned to the main fleet." Sarah made her decision. "All batteries, target the scout ship. Lieutenant O'Connor, send word to Earth Command, the war starts now." The ISS's weapons came alive, sending lances of quantum-enhanced energy toward the Void Hunter vessel. The alien ship's defenses activated, bending space itself to deflect the attacks. But the humans had learned from the collective. The second volley came from an impossible angle, phased through the scout's distorted space-time bubble, and struck true. The Void Hunter ship didn't explode, it imploded, collapsing in on itself like a dying star. But its death threw out a pulse of dark energy that knocked out communications across half the planet. In the sudden silence, the hunter-seekers changed tactics. They began to merge, combining into larger, more formidable forms. In Lagos, an entire squad of enhanced human defenders was overwhelmed when 3 of the creatures joined into a massive, crystalline entity that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. "They're testing our limits," Dr. Yuki Watanabe observed from the safety of the Atacama facility. "Each new form is designed to challenge different aspects of our enhanced abilities." Diana's team fought their way through Rio, trying to reach a group of civilians trapped in a quantum-sealed subway station. Maya's powers were essential, she could sense the fluctuations in reality that preceded each hunter-seeker attack. "Major," Marcus called from above, "You need to see this. The creatures that merged, they're building something." Diana looked up to see a massive structure taking shape above the city, assembled from the combined forms of dozens of hunter-seekers. It resembled a tower, but its geometry seemed to violate the laws of physics. "It's a beacon," Maya realized, her voice filled with dread. "They're not just gathering data, they're creating a quantum entanglement array to transmit everything back to their fleet instantly." Commander Blackwood's voice cut through the restored communications. "Same thing's happening in Sydney. We can't let them complete those structures." But destroying the towers proved nearly impossible. Every attack was met with adaptive defenses that seemed to learn from and counter their enhanced abilities. Even worse, proximity to the structures began to affect the enhanced humans in strange ways. "My powers," Zhao gasped, his force fields flickering. "They're being drained somehow." Maya focused her quantum senses on the tower, then stumbled back in shock. "These aren't just transmission arrays, they're trying to replicate the enhancement process. But it's wrong, corrupted somehow." In orbit, Sarah received the analysis from Dr. Watanabe. "The towers are creating a field effect similar to our activation chambers, but with a critical difference. They're not trying to enhance humans, they're trying to force an unstable transformation that would burn out the subjects' minds, leaving them like the Void Hunters," Nexus finished grimly. "Empty vessels of tremendous power, devoid of consciousness or free will." Diana made a quick decision. "All enhanced units, fall back from the towers." "Maya, I need options." The quantum physicist closed her eyes, extending her senses to their limit. When she opened them again, they blazed with determination. "The towers operate on a principle of forced quantum entanglement. If we could create a cascading resonance. In English, Doctor. We need to overload them. But it would take more power than any of us can generate individually." Marcus landed beside them, his expression grim. "Then we don't do it individually." Understanding passed between the enhanced humans. They had trained for weeks in the use of their individual powers, but they had never attempted to combine them. The risks were enormous, synthetic telepathy was still experimental, and linking their enhanced minds could have unforeseen consequences. But they were out of options. Around the world, for towers neared completion, their corrupt influence growing stronger by the minute. In each city, groups of enhanced humans formed circles, linking hands and minds. Diana felt the connection form, a rush of consciousness that threatened to overwhelm her identity. She felt Marcus's determination, Maya's brilliant analytical mind, Zhao's disciplined focus, and dozens of others, all struggling to maintain their individuality while joining their power. In Sydney, Commander Blackwood led her own circle. In Lagos, the surviving enhanced units rallied around their leader, a Nigerian quantum physicist named Dr. Oluwaseun Adebayo. In Seoul, General Park Min-ho, one of the first military leaders to undergo enhancement, commanded his team with iron discipline. On my mark, Diana broadcast through their linked consciousness. 3, 2, 1. The world exploded with light as enhanced humans around the globe channeled their combined power into the towers. Maya's quantum understanding guided their attack, finding the precise frequencies needed to disrupt the alien structures. Marcus's mastery of flight helped direct the energy. Zhao's defensive abilities protected them from the backlash. The towers began to collapse, their impossible geometry folding in on itself. The remaining hunter-seekers screamed, an electronic sound that pierced the mind, and fell inert. As the dust settled, Diana felt the mental link dissolve, leaving behind echoes of the connection they had shared. But victory had come at a cost. Several enhanced humans lay unconscious, their minds strained by the merger. Others reported their powers had become erratic or weakened. And everyone who had participated in the link was left with a troubling sense of loss, as if some essential part of their humanity had been temporarily sacrificed. In orbit, Sarah Chen watched the aftermath with mixed emotions. They had won their first real battle against the Void Hunters, but the enemy had achieved its objective. They now had extensive data on Earth's enhanced defenders. The main fleet has altered course, Lieutenant O'Connor reported. They're accelerating. Nexus studied the tactical display. They will be here in less than a week. This was never meant to be a true attack, it was a reconnaissance mission. Then we better make sure we learned as much about them as they did about us, Sarah replied. She opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Captain Chen. The immediate threat has been neutralized, but we need to prepare for the real invasion. And we need to understand exactly what happened to our people down there when they linked mines. As enhanced humans around the world recovered from their ordeal, Diana Santos looked at her team with new eyes. They had touched something profound in that mental merger, something that felt both transcendent and dangerous. Maya put it into words, we won this battle, but we got a glimpse of what the Void Hunters lost. The question is, can we find a way to fight them without losing ourselves in the process? The answer to that question would determine not just the outcome of the coming war, but the future of human consciousness itself. As January 2157 entered its third week, humanity had proven it could resist the Void Hunters. But the real test still lay ahead. Evolution. The Singapore Metacognition Institute hummed with activity as Dr. Maya Patel studied the holographic display before her. The quantum patterns of her fellow enhanced humans danced in the air, each one unique yet showing disturbing similarities to the corrupted signatures they detected in the Void Hunters' technology. The mind-linking changed us, she announced to the assembled leadership. Not just temporarily, it fundamentally altered our quantum neural patterns. Major Diana Santos, still recovering from the Battle of the Towers, leaned forward. Changed how? We're becoming more efficient at channeling quantum energy, but at a cost. The barriers between individual consciousness are becoming permeable. The room erupted in concerned murmurs. 5 days had passed since their victory over the Hunter-Seekers, and strange phenomena had been reported among the enhanced population. People were experiencing shared dreams, spontaneous telepathic connections, and moments of consciousness blending that left them questioning their individual identities. Commander Alexandra Blackwood strode into the room, her normally composed demeanor showing signs of strain. We're losing people, she reported grimly. Not to death, but to something worse. 3 of my best operators went into fugue states after trying to access their powers. When they came back, they were different. Different how? Dr. Yuki Watanabe asked, already pulling up their medical files. Empty, Alex replied. Like echoes of themselves. They can still use their abilities, better than ever, actually, but their emotions, their personalities, they're fading. In orbit, the ISS had become a fortress. Captain Sarah Chen supervised the installation of new defensive systems, trying not to think about the changes she'd observed in her enhanced crew members. Lieutenant O'Connor, who had undergone the enhancement process after the Tower battle, was becoming increasingly distant, his Irish humor replaced by cold efficiency. The Void Hunters will reach Earth in approximately 48 hours, Nexus informed her. The alien liaison had been spending more time studying human behavior than offering tactical advice lately. You knew this would happen, didn't you? Sarah accused. The consciousness bleed, the personality degradation, it's all part of the enhancement process. Nexus's form shimmered with what might have been regret. We hoped your species would be different. Your genetic markers suggested a potential for stable enhancement, but the Tower battle accelerated the process beyond our projections. Back in Singapore, Marcus Wright demonstrated the evolution of his abilities. He no longer just flew, he existed in a state of quantum uncertainty, simultaneously present at multiple points in space. But with each new advancement, his fellow pilots noticed his personality becoming more abstract, his humanity slipping away. Dr. Oluwaseun Adebayo, conferencing in from Lagos, shared his findings. The enhancement is spreading beyond the initial subjects. We're detecting quantum field activations in untreated humans who spend time near enhanced individuals. It's not just spreading, Maya added, it's evolving. Each new generation of enhanced humans is more powerful and less individual. We're approaching a singularity point. Diana felt it herself, the constant pull toward unity with other enhanced minds, the temptation to let go of individual consciousness and merge with something greater. Only her military discipline and focus on the mission kept her grounded. Zhao Wei, who had maintained remarkable stability despite his early difficulties, proposed a theory. What if this was the Void Hunter's original path? Not a sudden corruption, but a gradual evolution toward collective consciousness. A hive mind, Dr. Watanabe whispered. But one that sacrifices individual identity for power. The implications were staggering. Humanity faced not just an alien invasion, but an evolutionary crossroads. The very weapons they needed to survive might be transforming them into something no longer recognizably human. In a secure facility beneath Geneva, the United Earth Council debated implementing containment protocols for enhanced humans. The threat of losing their defenders to consciousness degradation seemed as dangerous as the approaching Void Hunters. But Dr. Maya Patel had discovered something crucial. There's a pattern to who maintains stability, she explained. Those who hold on to strong emotional connections, personal missions, or fundamental aspects of their identity seem more resistant to the degradation. Commander Blackwood nodded. My most stable operators are those with families, with strong ties to their human lives. Love, Marcus said simply, surprising everyone with the humanity still present in his voice. Love anchors us to our individuality. Diana thought of her own anchors, her duty to Earth, her connection to her team, her determination to preserve humanity's essence even as they evolved beyond their original limitations. These weren't weaknesses holding them back, they were foundations keeping them human. We need to modify the enhancement process, Dr. Watanabe suggested. Find a way to strengthen these emotional anchors while accessing the power we need. But time was running out. The Void Hunter fleet would arrive in less than 2 days, and they couldn't afford to dial back their abilities now. They needed every advantage, every weapon, every enhanced human operating at peak capacity. Sarah Chen made a crucial decision. We implement mandatory psychological anchoring for all enhanced personnel. Regular contact with family, meditation focused on personal memories, anything that reinforces individual identity. It won't be enough, Nexus warned. The Void Hunters will force you to push beyond your limits, to merge consciousness again. Each time you do, the pull toward collective consciousness will grow stronger. Then we better make sure we win quickly, Diana replied. Because I didn't sign up to lose my soul to save my species. They spent the next 24 hours preparing for what everyone knew would be the defining moment of human history. Enhanced humans worked with regular military forces, teaching them to act as emotional anchors. Scientists rushed to understand the quantum mechanics of consciousness itself. And throughout it all, humanity grappled with the question of what they were becoming. Maya made a breakthrough in the final hours before the Void Hunters' arrival. The tower battle showed us something we missed. When we linked minds, we didn't just share power, we shared essence. And in that sharing, we glimpsed what the Void Hunters lost, the ability to be both one and many, unified but distinct. What are you suggesting? Diana asked. A controlled merge. Not a complete surrender to collective consciousness, but a network of linked minds that maintains individual identity. Like a symphony, where each instrument remains distinct while contributing to a greater whole. It was theoretical, untested, and incredibly dangerous. But as the first signs of the Void Hunter fleet appeared on deep space sensors, they were out of time for safer options. Sarah Chen looked out at Earth from the ISS's observation deck, watching enhanced humans take up defensive positions around the planet. They moved with impossible grace, their powers having grown beyond anything they'd imagined weeks ago. But in each of them burned a fierce determination to remain human, to fight not just for survival but for the right to remain individual beings capable of love, fear, hope, and choice. The void between stars is vast and empty, Nexus observed, but the void between minds was never meant to be absolute. Perhaps that is what my people forgot, what the void hunters lost. The beauty lies not in perfect unity or perfect separation, but in the dance between the two. As humanity prepared for its greatest battle, they faced not just an external enemy but the gravitational pull of their own evolution. The next 24 hours would determine not just whether humanity would survive, but what surviving would mean. Diana Santos gathered her team for what might be their final briefing as individual beings. Remember who you are, she told them. Remember what you love. Remember why we fight. Tomorrow, we face the Void Hunters, and we show them what humanity has become, not empty vessels of power, but beings who have learned to touch infinity without losing themselves in it. The evolution of humanity had brought them to this precipice. The final battle would determine whether they could find a balance between transcendence and identity, between power and humanity, between the one and the many. As January 2157 approached its end, Earth prepared for a confrontation that would reshape not just their world, but the very nature of human consciousness. Final stand. The Void Hunter fleet emerged from hyperspace like a tear in reality itself, 7 massive capital ships surrounded by swarms of smaller vessels, their hulls drinking in both light and hope. As they approached Earth's defensive line, Captain Sarah Chen felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature in the ISS. Multiple quantum distortions detected, Lieutenant O'Connor reported, his voice carrying an echo of his former warmth. They're deploying something massive. The space between the Void Hunter ships began to distort, reality itself warping as they initiated their primary weapon, a consciousness disruptor designed to forcibly merge all enhanced human minds into a single, controllable entity. This is how they harvest species, Nexus explained, their form flickering with ancient grief. They don't just take bodies, they collect consciousness itself. But humanity had prepared for this moment. Dr. Maya Patel's quantum symphony was already in motion. Enhanced humans around the globe and in orbit joined in carefully calibrated mental networks, each group maintaining their individual identities while sharing power and consciousness in controlled bursts. Major Diana Santos led the ground defense from the Singapore facility. Status report on all networks. Commander Alexandra Blackwood's voice came through, steady and human despite the immense power she now channeled. Australian Defence Network stable. All operators maintaining psychological anchors. Similar reports came in from Lagos, where Dr. Oluwaseun Adebayo's team had developed a unique rhythm of consciousness sharing based on traditional African musical patterns. In Seoul, General Park Min-ho's forces moved with perfect coordination while reciting personal mantras that kept them grounded in their individual identities. The first wave of Void Hunter attacks came not as weapons, but as temptation. Their consciousness disruptor offered power beyond imagination, unity beyond understanding, an end to the struggle of individual existence. Some enhanced humans wavered, drawn to the siren song of absolute transcendence. Hold the line. Diana ordered, her voice cutting through the psychic static. Remember who you are. Remember what we're fighting for. Marcus Wright led the aerial defense, his quantum-shifted form appearing at multiple points simultaneously. But unlike before, he maintained his humanity through the dispersal, each version of himself humming an old RAF song his father had taught him. The Void Hunters' capital ships began their approach, their weapon systems powering up. But humanity had a surprise waiting. Dr. Yuki Watanabe's research had led to a breakthrough, a way to use their quantum abilities not just for power, but for healing and restoration. Now, Maya. Sarah Chen ordered from the ISS. Dr. Maya Patel, surrounded by a team of quantum-sensitive engineers, initiated the counter-protocol. Enhanced humans worldwide didn't just resist the consciousness disruptor, they reached through it, touching the minds of the Void Hunters themselves. What they found shocked them all. The Void Hunters weren't just empty vessels, they were wounded beings, trapped in a half-life of power without purpose, unity without understanding. Their consciousness hadn't been destroyed but frozen, locked in the moment of their transformation. We can help them, Maya realized, her voice carrying through the quantum network. Not by fighting, but by showing them what they've forgotten. The Void Hunters reacted with fury, their ships launching devastating attacks. The space around Earth lit up with quantum fire as humanity's enhanced defenders met the assault. But now they weren't just fighting, they were attempting something never before tried in the history of the galaxy. Zhao Wei, who had once struggled with control, now led a team of quantum stabilizers. They created a matrix of force fields that didn't just defend, they resonated with healing frequencies, reaching into the quantum structure of the Void Hunters' consciousness. Their ships, Lieutenant O'Connor observed, something of his old self returning as he watched the sensors. They're changing. The obsidian hulls of the Void Hunter vessels began to shift, colors bleeding through the darkness. Their rigid formations wavered as the beings inside experienced something they had lost eons ago, the memory of individual existence, the beauty of personal choice, the strength found in willing cooperation rather than forced unity. But victory wouldn't come easily. The Void Hunter leadership, entrenched in their capital ships, fought back with desperate fury. They launched waves of hunter-seekers, now evolved into consciousness-draining weapons that threatened to overwhelm Earth's defenses. Diana made a critical decision. All networks, prepare for full convergence. But this time, we do it our way. Around the world, enhanced humans joined in Maya's quantum symphony. But unlike the Void Hunters' forced merge, this was a chorus of willing participants, each maintaining their unique voice while contributing to something greater. Sarah Chen felt it from orbit, the most profound connection of minds in human history, yet one that celebrated rather than erased individual consciousness. Through their linked awareness, humanity reached out to the Void Hunters not in battle, but in understanding. We know what you lost, their unified consciousness broadcast. We've touched the void you fell into. But there's another way. The response came not in words but in quantum ripples of recognition. The Void Hunters' ship stopped firing, their crews experiencing something they had forgotten was possible, the ability to be both one and many, connected but distinct. In that moment of connection, Dr. Maya Patel understood the final piece. The genetic markers she sent through the network. They weren't just about power. They were about balance, the ability to touch transcendence without losing ourselves in it. The transformation swept through the Void Hunter fleet like a wave of awakening. Ships that had been weapons of conquest became arcs of healing as their crews rediscovered their individual identities while maintaining their enhanced abilities. But the victory came with a price. The strain of maintaining such deep connection while helping to heal an ancient species left Earth's defenders changed. They would never be the same humans who had started this journey at the beginning of 2157, but perhaps that had always been inevitable. As the Void Hunter ships began to power down their weapons, Nexus shared a final revelation. This was the true test, they said. Not whether humanity could fight the Void Hunters, but whether you could show them, and us, a new way to evolve. The enhanced humans began to disconnect from their global network, each carrying with them a new understanding of what it meant to be both individual and connected. They had found a balance that had eluded the collective and the Void Hunters, the ability to touch the infinite while remaining fundamentally human. Diana Santos looked out over her transformed world. Enhanced humans now walked among normal humans, their powers tempered by the wisdom of their journey. The Void Hunters would remain in Earth's orbit not as conquerors but as learners, seeking to rediscover their own lost humanity. So, Marcus Wright asked, his form solidifying beside her, still humming his father's song, did humanity survive? Diana watched as Dr. Maya Patel worked with former Void Hunters, teaching them to balance power with identity. She saw Commander Blackwood training a new generation of enhanced humans, emphasizing the importance of emotional anchors alongside tactical skills. In orbit, Sarah Chen and Lieutenant O'Connor coordinated with Void Hunter ships, establishing protocols for peaceful cooperation. We did more than survive, Diana answered. We showed the galaxy what humanity really means, not just the ability to fight or evolve, but to maintain our essence even as we transform. We proved that the void between consciousness doesn't have to be filled with either perfect unity or perfect separation. As January 2157 drew to a close, Earth had changed forever. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious but transformed. They had proven that evolution didn't have to mean loss, that power didn't have to corrupt, and that the greatest strength lay not in transcending humanity but in redefining what humanity could become. The stars above Earth shone on a species that had not just survived but had shown the galaxy a new way forward, a path between the void and the light, between unity and individuality, between what they had been and what they could be. And in that balance, they had found not just survival, but a new kind of triumph.